that we all participate in or we all share. And Sartre inverts that. Essence is preceded by existence. First you must be, and then as you as you be in the world, you create your essence. You create what it is that you are. And we'll see this. This is a somewhat longish passage, but let me just read it to you because it's, I think, it's juicy. If, however, it is true that existence is prior to essence, man is responsible for what he is. Thus, the first effect of existentialism is that it puts every man in possession of himself as he is, and places the entire responsibility for his existence squarely upon his own shoulders. And when we say that man is responsible for himself, we do not mean that he is responsible only for his own individuality, but that he is responsible for all men. When we say that man chooses himself, we do mean that every one of us must choose himself. But by that we also mean that in choosing for himself, he chooses for all men. For in effect, of all the actions a man may take in order to create himself as he wills to be, there is not one which is not creative at the same time of an image of man, such as he believes he ought to be. To choose between this or that is at the same time to affirm the value of that which is chosen. For we are unable ever to choose the worse. What we choose is always the better, and nothing can be better for us unless it is better for all. If, moreover, existence precedes essence, and we will to exist at the same time as we fashion our image, that image is valid for all, and for the entire epoch in which we find ourselves. Our responsibility is thus much greater than we had supposed, for it concerns mankind as a whole. Now this idea of responsibility is coupled with this original idea of us creating ourselves, right? That freedom, our freedom, what it means to be free, is to create oneself as one wills, to make of oneself what one wills, to fashion one's life according to what one values, what has meaning, what has worth to oneself. That's freedom.
Sounds like a libertarian.
Right, except with that freedom, with each of those choices, one chooses not just for oneself, one presents an image of what humanity can be. And one presents it as an image of what humanity can be for everyone to see, for everyone to choose the same, for everyone to follow. So in every choice I make, I say to the world, I say to every single other human being, this has value. This that I have chosen has value. Not just for me, because in choosing it, in doing it, in living it, I present it as a possibility for every single other human being. This is a possibility. As I do it, so can you. As I choose it, so can you. And the can becomes a should when I choose it. Because when I choose it, I give it value. That's the only source of value. There is no other source of value according to Sartre. But in the choosing of something, that it is chosen gives whatever is chosen value. That you are here now, you could be doing many other things with your time, I'm sure. That you are here now is an expression of the value you find in being here. And you present this as a possibility for every other human being. So next time when you're choosing toilet paper, choose carefully, because you're choosing for all of us. Really. Yeah.
So, and this wouldn't be incompatible with causal determinism, would it? Sorry, I had to throw the metaphysical wrench somewhere.
You know, most existentialists avoid the whole determinism question because determinism let me approach it like this. Determinism is plausible as an account of the way the world is, including us, that is not evident from the first person point of view. It requires an external point of view to even make sense. Because in the living of this life, there's insufficient evidence to sustain a determinist position.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Not the approach I thought they would take.
Okay. What did you think they would take?
Just move into the happy compatibilist bubble.
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, some philosophers do that. Mill does that, and Kant does that.
Right. But they're less concerned about the physical determinants as there is our capacity to modulate between behaviors within those, or that actually presupposes that they're there, so I doubt they'd make that move, right?
Well, yeah. Yeah, compatibilism could be a solution, but it presumes the plausibility of determinism as an account. Which is not limited by its purported objectivity.
Okay.
Think about it like this. I mean, there's ways you can read Kant in his moral writings especially, where he says, look, he says something to the effect, or he's been interpreted to be saying something to the effect like this. Whether or not we are fundamentally caused in the way that every other object of any sort is caused is something about which we cannot know, because we cannot that extends beyond the bounds of our experience. We can speculate about it. But since we're speculating, we can also speculate that we're free, for which we have much more evidence experientially. When I move my hands, it feels to me fundamentally as a doing that originates in me. Now I might be moving my hand. You might say, but you're being caused by the necessity of demonstration. Yes, but this response to the necessity of demonstration is a response that originates in me. The necessity of demonstration originates, it's external to me. But then I respond this way, rather than this way, or rather than this way, or rather than remaining absolutely still, is a response that originates with me. There's much more empirical, experiential evidence that supports the speculation that we're free. And we have to speculate that we're free because otherwise morality is impossible. Kant tells us. Morality necessitates that we are free in some way, somehow. That because in its absence, actions would be, ends would be, if we're not free, then not only our actions would have to be explained otherwise, as originating elsewhere than with ourselves, but also our ends our choices, our values would have to be explained causally, deterministically. There'd have to be some deterministic story. And it would have to account for the fullness of the experience of choosing. Now we could be it might be that we're fundamentally mistaken, right? Maybe quantum physics is correct, right? Maybe the implications of quantum physics for us is such that we are not. And if the evidence is overwhelming, I think Kant and even the existentialists would have to say, wow, really? And then we'd have to abandon all kinds of things, like morality, that seem to work really well, seem to have meaning, and seem to play a huge role in what it means to be this kind of being. Now maybe those are things we're willing to give up. That's a world that's kind of scary to me. I really hope that they're wrong. Just like I really hope that when they turned on the super collider that's going on under France and Switzerland, that they wouldn't create a black hole, but they could have. Were you guys anxious about that? No? The Hadron super collider goes underneath of France and Switzerland. Really? I was teaching an existentialism class during that, when that was all raging. I remember it fall 3 or 4 years ago, and it was raging, and I was like, all right, at any moment, we could be completely annihilated in the name of science.
Well, it seemed a lot more plausible to me than sort of Y2K.
Oh yeah, Y2K. That's like, buy this new software.
It's a shame you're not teaching existentialism this semester, because then we'd live through the Mayan apocalypse.
That's true. 2012, the calendar ends. We're fucked. Right? There is going to be no January 1st, 2013. So all of my planning as department chair, I think I might just go into the next meeting and go, well, what's the point of this? Really? Spring semester? Who's going to be here? Where was I going with that? Right, freedom. Well, maybe let me move. Let me zip forward here, because maybe Sartre has something we can use to respond here. Oh, that's to go for. Where's Sartre? Where are you? Anguish, despair. Where are we? Oh, here we go. Okay, so here's a kind of concern with determinism. This is more like a social determinism, but it's kind of along the same lines, that who you are is fundamentally determined by things outside of you. So this is from Freedom and Facticity, another one of his philosophical writings, not one of his novels. The decisive argument which is employed by common sense against freedom. Be careful whenever determinists say, well, it's just common sense. Be careful. They're sneaking shit in. The decisive argument which is employed by common sense against freedom consists in reminding us of our impotence. Far from being able to modify our situation at our whim, we seem to be unable to change ourselves. I am not free either to escape the lot of my class, of my nation, of my family, or even to build upon my own power or my fortune, or to conquer my most significant appetites or habits. I am born a worker, a Frenchman, and hereditary syphilitic. I love how he throws these things in. Or a tubercular. The history of a life, whatever it may be, is the history of a failure. The coefficient of adversity of things is such that years of patience are necessary to obtain the feeblest result. Again, it is necessary to obey nature in order to command it. That is, to insert my action into the network of determinism. This would be a compatibilist kind of approach, right? there's a deterministic world, and we can affect it somehow as long as we jump into that deterministic mode. Much more than he appears to make himself, man seems to be made by climate and the earth, race and class, language, the history of the collectivity of which he is a part, heredity, the individual circumstances of his childhood, acquired habits, and the great and small events of his life. That's common sense. That's the determinism that he responds to. And here's his response. This argument has never greatly troubled the partisans of human freedom. See, it's really not something they concern themselves with. Descartes, first of all, recognized both that the will is infinite and that it is necessary, quote, to try to conquer ourselves rather than fortune, close quote. Here, certain distinctions ought to be made. Many of the facts set forth by the determinists do not actually deserve to enter our considerations. In particular, the coefficient of adversity in things cannot be, the coefficient of adversity is the degree to which the stuff of the world resists us, resists our efforts, it impedes, causes us